okay, it's time to grow? What's your advice?
Yeah, so first, all of my advice comes from having made every conceivable mistake that you can imagine. So this is not me like, hey, let me tell you, I've done everything right.
This episode features an interview with Bilyeu. If you enjoy stellar interviews and inspiring entrepreneurial video content, you probably already know him because he's the co-founder and host of Impact Theory. He is on a mission to help people develop the skills needed for personal growth, to create empowering media-based intellectual property, and to foster mission-based businesses. Before Impact Theory, he co-founded the 2014 Inc. 500 company Quest Nutrition, a startup valued at over $1 billion. He is also an in-demand public speaker and has been featured in publications like Forbes, Success Inc., and many more. He has an infectious positive attitude and an incredible entrepreneurial track record, so I was excited to chat with him recently after a speaking engagement of his in Dallas, Texas. If you have trouble staying positive through the grind, you will love this interview with Bilyeu. Thank you for joining me for another episode of The Pursuit. This is so cool. I'm here with Bilyeu, the founder of Quest Nutrition, you guys. I get the pleasure of diving into someone's world before an interview, as you know, because you do interviewing. Yeah. So I'm like totally hyped up, and like you guys should all go listen to all of his interviews because we won't have enough time today to get into all of it. But super inspiring dude. A lot of people know you from Quest Nutrition.
Sure.
But I want to go back before that, because before that, you and your two other partners had a successful tech company, right?
Yeah.
And you were very successful externally, but not internally, is what I would say.
Yeah.
And so I want to know, before we move on from that, what do you think was the key to the success of the first business you guys had?
Well, I mean, that was really grit and determination and just enough entrepreneurial know-how. So my business partners, who at the time, so for the technology company, they originally hired me as a copywriter. And I was just going to come in and help them grow the business. But they said, don't think of yourself as a copywriter. That's your job title, but like you can have any job you want. You just have to become the right person for the job. So you have to gain those skills. So it had like that energy of a startup where everybody was just really going hard. And so I just went all in and tried to learn and get better and grow fast. And that they had some experience beforehand. So they knew, like, they were business savvy, and it was a decent product. So, and the timing was right. It was the first web-based security software, so that helped us really get a foothold. So sort of all the classic stuff, you know, a product that meets a niche in the market that's underserved, and you have enough business know-how to get it going.
Awesome. But like I said, externally, things were great. Internally, you were like, I'm dying inside and I hate this. Literally. So I want to know, what were there warning signs? So maybe someone who's watching that's like, am I really not fulfilled anymore? Is this not for me? What should they be looking out for? What are some red flags?
Yeah, I mean, there's one really big red flag, and that's, what do you want to do? Like, what do you enjoy spending your time, right? If you think of it as, instead of pursuing like some grand dream, the thing that you have is time. Time is your most precious commodity. So spending a lot of time doing something that you don't like in and of the moment you don't like it, is a super dangerous way to live your life. So one, nothing is guaranteed, so you may not ever make it even a year, 18 months, 2 years down the road to have some big eggs, get hit by a car, a meteorite, I mean, whatever the case.
Right.
So the lesson that I finally learned was, you need to find something that you would love doing even if you were failing. Because I can't guarantee, dear viewers, I cannot guarantee that you'll be successful. I can guarantee that you will fail at times, right? So failure is a guarantee, success is not. Everyone wants to enjoy their life, so you better be in a position where you can enjoy even the hard times. If you do that, and to me it's structuring it around something that you love, that you really enjoy, and look, I fully understand that's a process in and of itself.
Right.
First you have to take an interest, gain mastery, see if you really like it, if you've got the passion to keep pushing. But I don't think it's like you were given a passion lightning rod when you were a kid and you lost it somewhere in your bedroom. It's not like that. It's, you develop it, right? So it's kind of like love in that way. love has elements of trust, and love has elements of shared experience, and being a reciprocal relationship. All of that stuff that takes time. Same is true of the passion. But when you find it, and then can give yourself over to it, and can really build something out of that, then it's like, well, even if you're failing, you still love that thing that you're around. You know what I mean? So that's the key. But people are delusional enough to think either success is guaranteed, so let me just put my head down and work really hard for 5 years.
Hustle and grit.
Right.
And that's,
Or they just haven't thought through to the point where you can make the demand that you earn a living, and a good one, or even generate true wealth doing something that you love, if you understand how to make your areas of interest and things that can be sold, if you can find where they overlap.
So look for the overlap, you guys. Now, I love how much you talk about mindset and the importance of having a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. At The Pursuit, we talk a lot about best self, best work, and that's a huge best self thing, you guys, is to realize that we can expand. And I wondered when that happened for you. Was it a light bulb? Like, did you find one book and it started everything, or?
I'm way too dumb for that. So unfortunately, things always take me more time than I would like. I just read voraciously. So I'm always reading, always reading, always reading. And I probably read about 50 books a year. I do it via Audible, so I'm listening to books.
I was going to ask how you fit that in, because we know you don't have like tons of free time.
Yeah, no, sadly. And I've trained myself to read at 3x, so I'm reading the books very, very quickly. I take notes on it to make sure that I've got the information, I can retain it and go back through it, which I didn't used to do, and I found that to be very, very beneficial. So yeah, that lets me read about 50 books a year. That all stacks, you know, when you come across something that's like, whoa, that really makes sense, and I'm going to add that now. And I've got a whole thing where when I read a book, I don't do this anymore, but I used to, I would say to myself, I'm opening myself up to being changed by this book. The only reason I don't say it now is it's so ingrained in me to be open to being changed, that when I come across something that I think this is actually really useful, like this will actually help me reach my goals, then I really want to make sure that I put that into immediate action, that I actually adopt it as a behavior and not just like an idea.
Right.
So I'll try to begin using it immediately to begin the habit loop and to really make sure that that becomes a lasting part of my behavior. And then at one keystone moment in terms of story was when I was still the copywriter and I was trying to like find my footing as an entrepreneur. Still was building my self-esteem around being right, being smart, but my business partners were smarter than I was, and so they were usually right much more than I was. And that was very damaging to my self-esteem. So it put me in like this really weird situation where I wanted to get rich and I wanted to be right. And those weren't always in alignment. So, and one day I found myself, I argued for an idea that I knew was wrong, but I so wanted to win, to be right, to feel smart. And I convinced them. And then I was like, what do I do now? I know the idea is wrong. I know this is going to move us away from actually becoming successful. So like, what do I really want? And I think that's one thing that I'm very grateful for. I've always understood my motives, even when they're ugly, even when they're petty. So I could see, I did that because I want to feel good about being right. And it's now moving me away from my goal. So I either need to admit that getting rich is not very important to me, and what is important to me is feeling smart and feeling right, and then just own it, right? At least live in accordance with it. But don't waste your wife's time, anybody else's time talking about what you really want is to be rich. Or if that's actually what you want, then you've got to build your self-esteem around something else that allows you to feel good while always pursuing the right answer. And so that was a huge moment for me. And I ended up switching and building my self-esteem around being a learner and identifying the right answer faster than anybody else and always being willing to admit when I was wrong. And that changed everything.
Yeah, wow, that's powerful. So I love how self-aware you are, and people, I've worked to be that way too, and people will comment like, gosh, you know, you're so self-aware, or like Gary Vee, you know, he talks about that all the time, how self-aware. Do you think that people can become more self-aware, and if so, how? So
yes, I'm a huge believer, even if this is total delusion, by the way, like I am fine with that.
You still believe it. 100%.
I still believe it. I just need to believe that you can change anything you want, because it just makes sense. You may not allocate the resources because that thing may be really hard or whatever, but I want to believe that it's all malleable. But with self-awareness in and of itself, I actually have strategies that people can use. So you get a feeling. right? Let's say something is freaking you out. You'd start to get unease. Let's say you're getting angry. It starts like you feel that emotion necessarily even before you fully understand what it is that's upsetting you. And the key is to recognize that you're having the emotion. So once you realize that you're having the emotion, then you can just walk through the process of something is responsible for this feeling. What is it? And as you begin to parse through things, then you can begin to identify it. And over time, you'll get pretty good. Like you may get some misidentifications at first. It's like, oh, I think it's making me angry for this reason, but then you feel the same later and the situation is different, so it's not that. But if you're always doing that, asking why am I having this feeling? Why am I having this feeling? What's driving it? And then also a big part of it for me was learning about the brain. So that helped me with self-awareness a lot. Like I just understood this is the way the brain works, neurochemistry, the way that it, like take the deep limbic system, for instance, and the way that the deep limbic system's job is to color your perception of something. So if I say, Kelsey, that dress is beautiful.
Thank you.
You can either be like, thank you, or you can be like, what, you didn't like the dress that I wore yesterday? Now, that is precisely the deep limbic system's job. It is to say that stimulus, right? The old quote from Shakespeare, nothing is either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. So what I said is neither good or bad, but how you interpret it will make it that. And the thing that's doing the interpreting is the deep limbic system. Once you understand it and understand that it can get inflamed at times, and when it gets inflamed, it, without fail, will perceive stimulus as negative. So when I found myself just all the time, like everything just seemed negative, I'm like, okay, hold on. I know the deep limbic system well enough to know, for whatever reason, it is now just coloring everything as a negative event.
Wow, okay.
Because I know that something horrific could happen to me. And I have the choice, and I could say, well, how's this the best thing that ever happened to me? And simply by switching my focus, I can find something beautiful in, you know, what's devastating. And the example I always give is Stephen Hawking, right? Stephen Hawking has about every reason to complain in the world, as he is a total shut-in. He can move, I think, one muscle in his cheek and his eyes. And that's it.
Yeah.
His life is a wheelchair. I don't think anybody would wish that on themselves. But Stephen Hawking has had some of the biggest breakthroughs in theoretical physics simply because he said, as my body shut down, I had to retreat into my mind, into my imagination. And because that happened, I've had these breakthroughs. I've moved the science forward. I'm incredibly proud of that. And so he found beauty in it. And he doesn't sit around complaining about the fact that, you know, he's a shut-in. But anybody else would be like, why aren't you complaining?
Wow.
So understanding that you always have those choices, that you can always take control of that mind, it's all part of that self-awareness process, and just neuroanatomy, and then asking why do I feel this way? Those two things are my big.
See why we just want to continue talking to him forever. But now we need to get into some more tactics. Okay, so within, correct me if I get the numbers wrong, but basically 0 to $1 billion valuation, Quest Nutrition, in 6 years, 5 years?
Just under 5.
5 years. And that's going from the 3 of you guys to 1,500 employees?
14, and then if you want to count 1,000.
Like contractors.
Yeah.
So crazy, crazy growth. And so I want to know your tips on scaling, but for people who are maybe just a one-person solopreneur shop that has like an assistant, or maybe a small team like you guys were, but like really small and realizing, okay, it's time to grow. What's your advice? Coming up, don't miss his #1 piece of advice for achieving success. But first, I want to remind you that if you love these celebrity interviews, there are 3 ways you can support this show, this free show here on the internet, you guys. First, you can like this video and share it with your hustler and dreamer friends. Second, you can subscribe to the channel. And lastly, you can sign up to join Pursuit Nation. When you do, I will give you my top 10 success hacks for real life. How do we take all the tactics in these interviews with millionaires and celebrities and actually apply them to pursuing our own dream? That's what I break down in this PDF. Get your free copy at thepursuit.tv/top10. I also want to take a second to tell you about something really cool for those of you who are freelancers, if you have a service-based business, or maybe multiple side hustles, and you have a lot of invoices going out and hopefully a lot of that cash money coming in, right? If you're having trouble staying organized with all of that, you've got to check out FreshBooks. You can go right now, and it takes 30 seconds to set up, and you have a professional invoice with your colors and logo. No more recreating clunky Word documents over and over again, you guys. You can use the time tracker tool when you work to immediately bill your hours to a specific client. And later, you don't have to have that awkward conversation when your client forgets to pay, because FreshBooks will automatically send follow-up emails for you. Plus, in the dashboard, you can see quickly what's coming in, what's going out, and what's past due. You can easily sync your business credit card to automatically record and categorize your expenses. And best of all, it saves you hours of frustration and agony during the worst time of the year, tax season, because it tracks all of your tax information for you as you use it. All you freelancers, consultants, and coaches are going to seriously love it, and FreshBooks is offering a free 30-day trial to Pursuit Nation. So go to freshbooks.com/pursuit to start today. Make sure when the pop-up asks how you heard about them, you put in the pursuit. If you're crushing it with your clients, but not so much with the organization, again, that's freshbooks.com/pursuit. And so I want to know your tips on scaling, but for people who are maybe just a one-person solopreneur shop that has like an assistant, or maybe a small team like you guys were, but like really small and realizing, okay, it's time to grow. What's your advice?
Yeah, so first, all of my advice comes from having made every conceivable mistake that you can imagine. So this is not me like, hey, let me tell you I've done everything right. This was falling on my face, hiring too fast, firing too slow, growing too fast, not recognizing it, you know, and then like trying to put all the pieces together. But some of the most powerful lessons that I learned, culture matters. And the reason culture matters is the reason it's easy when you're small is you can truly lead by example. Okay, so when it was me and like 14 or 15 other people, I was working on the line every day. I wore a hairnet, lab coat, gloves, and I made protein bars. That's what I did for almost 2 years. Wow. So when you're doing that and people see, I would walk in and say, what's the hardest job? And people would say, oh, that's the hardest job. And I said, great, that's the job I'm going to do. And then I would bring enthusiasm and energy and make sure everybody was excited. So everybody knew, like, okay, he's not afraid of hard work, which then makes them want to work for you because you're never making any demands of them that you haven't already proven a willingness to do. I remember one day the toilet backed up and there was literal human feces on the ground. And I went to the janitor, I said, I don't want you to clean that up. I'm going to clean that up because I want everyone to know there is not a single task in this company I'm not prepared to do. So clean that up, and everyone could see it, right? They're around me. They saw my work ethic. They saw how many hours I was willing to work, that I didn't complain about it, right? That I wouldn't get tired and start, you know, whining or being mean, that like, I just got it done. So if I came in and I was pissed and I made demands, what is everybody doing? It was that way that you feel where you feel bad that they're disappointed in you. Because I had busted my ass. So it wasn't a me on high kind of thing. It was me, I'm one of you, like we're in this together. That's huge. Now as you scale, only so many people get to see your work ethic. Other people hear about your work ethic, and then for other people it's just sort of a story. So that's where it starts to get really hard. So making sure that you're building into the culture what's acceptable, what's not, what people are expected to do, the level of excellence, the way that you communicate, like all of it needs to be spelled out and reinforced. That way, no matter who you're clustered around, there's always going to be natural types. So when you're clustered around a leader or an influencer, whether they know me or work with me or not, that the ideology that's driving that culture is strong all over the company. Now, it's never going to be equally strong, but you want to make sure that in every division, from the top to the bottom, sideways, left, right, up, down, that there are enough influencers who embody that philosophy that, you know, whatever the 5 to 9 people that can legitimately warm their hands on that person's cultural contributions, that they have that person. Because as you start getting too far away from that, it begins to crumble. And when people don't feel taken care of, that is like death and a half. People have got to know that the company is looking out for them, that they really believe in them and want good things. Again, that was easy when they could see it, and I could, like, they came and, hey, look, my mom's car got impounded. I need to go deal with it. Yeah, man, of course. Like, don't clock out. Like, but then when it has to become a policy, all of a sudden it gets really hard. So making sure that you're creating policies that make people feel cared about, that make them feel supported, that make them feel more important to you than money. Like, they have to know all of this stuff. I could literally go on forever, but the bottom line is make sure people feel that you care. Feel, right? Not that you tell them, they have to feel it.
Yeah. So I know you guys kind of think in 3 sections of your company: people, product, and process. I was going to remember. So would you say that's the number one thing for people, making sure that they feel important and valuable?
Yeah, there's 5 things that motivate people, and 2 of the most important of those are purpose and significance. And if people don't feel that they have importance, that they matter, that they're doing a job that's critical to the organization. And if they don't feel that that contribution is significant somehow, like, what does your product mean? What is your company trying to do in the world? You know, and to really let people feel like we were trying to end metabolic disease. And hey, you're working the line, but that's all a part of getting to that. Like, you're making this possible. And to try to, we had TVs that would cycle through images of people that had used our product to go through these tremendous transformations, because we wanted them to understand what you're doing is significant. It matters. Like, there are people out there counting on this product, using it, it's changing their lives, and to really feel connected to that.
And so what about the number one thing you would advise people when it comes to product and then processes?
Your product has to be better than any other product out on the market. Otherwise, why are you there? Let whoever is best do their thing. So I think in times of trouble, companies should always double, triple, quintuple down on the product. Make it better, make it more revolutionary, put more time and energy on that. That's just like the answer. And when you look at what Disney did, that was his thing. Like, in the Great Depression, during the war, like when they went bankrupt, they had things repossessed, like, but in those times of trouble, when everybody else was like, cut corners, cut costs, he said, absolutely not. We've got to do more. It's got to be bigger. It's got to be better than it's ever done. And that's how he became Disney. It was just always, in your darkest hour, in your time of most trouble, turn to the product, make it better. Because at the end of the day, you're selling value. And if your product doesn't deliver value, like a crushing, just terrifying amount of value where people can't believe it, like, you've made it this good, like you could have stopped here and we'd still love it and still buy it. And even though you're way beyond what the customer would expect, you have to keep pushing, right? You have to keep making yourself obsolete, going the next distance. You have to.
That's good.
That's the way to stay fresh. From a process perspective, it all comes down to optimizing to serve the product which has been created to serve the customer, right? So at the end of the day, everything is predicated around delivering value to the customer. That's it. And so you do whatever you have to do to make that happen. And at Quest, we literally had to re-engineer our own equipment because the equipment that was commercially available on the market wouldn't make our product. And I'm sure countless other people had encountered that same problem, and their solution was to alter the product. Our solution was to alter the process.
Yeah, I also think it's really cool how you have that on your website. So if you go to questnutrition.com and if you go to questnutrition.com and you go to About, and then go to Our Story, I guess, and they have it by year. And I'm just reading and I'm like, oh my gosh, this must have been so frustrating. Finally, you're making your own equipment. So that's really cool that you put all of that out there for people to read. I thought that was awesome. So one thing I wanted to ask you about is talk about a crowded marketplace. Okay, we're talking about fitness, nutrition. I mean, nutrition, and there was like 1,800 either bars or flavors that were out when you guys launched. So someone who's out there, I know we have a lot of influencers, a lot of podcasters, fellow YouTubers, again, super saturated marketplace. What's your best advice for standing out? Other than that your product is great, because that's, a given, hopefully.
Well, so here's the thing. If your product isn't great, then don't do it, right? So the only place you should try to go in and stand out is a place where the market is actually being underserved. And so I'll give you a marketing answer in a minute as to how you capitalize on that, but truly the standing out needs to be done at the product level. Okay. And if you don't have that, move on to something else, truly, just otherwise, you know what I mean? So if nobody's being underserved, like, what are you doing? Once you have a product that is serving a market that has been underserved, at that point you want to build a community. And we're living through the most miraculous time to be an entrepreneur, where it is totally democratized. No one can stop you from reaching your audience. No one. So you now have an ability. If you have a real product that actually meets a need, you can get right to your customer and you can deliver that value immediately. You can reach out to them socially and connect, build a community, all for free. And if your product actually delivers on the value now, and you've been building that community and adding value to them, for very little money, you can essentially build your own TV station. Like, imagine that for a second. Oh, I can't afford to run an ad, but I can afford to build a TV studio? Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy.
So when my booking agent for Impact Theory heard that, oh, The Pursuit wants to have you on. And he has this thing that he does, which is amazing. He goes, wait, what? And he was like, she's amazing. Have you seen all the people that she has on her show? So it's like, it is, and then we looked at it and we were like, how is she pulling this up? It is really amazing.
Thank you.
Amazing. And so you've done such an incredible job because you deliver value to your community, right?
Yeah.
You create great content on the writing side. You then do great content here on the video side. You obviously get amazing people on your show, and 15, 20 years ago, you would never have been able to break through, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So you're living through a time where your willingness to really create something great, right? So let's start with that.
Yeah.
You've actually created something great. You're a great interviewer, great writer.
Thank you.
Because of that, though,
Yeah.
however big you want to make your platform, you can. It may take time, obviously, but you're going to deliver value one after the other, and then it just keeps getting bigger. And there's no studio head to like get in your way. There's nobody who just didn't like the way you talked to them one day that can shut you down. It's like it is you and your community.
Yeah.
And as long as you deliver value to them, you're crushing. So if you have a real product and you're prepared to do the kind of work that you do, meet these people, get out there, really deliver value to them, it is totally democratized.
Yeah.
So it's like the world of excuses is dead and gone. You can make them if you want, but it's never going to stop somebody like you. So
that's also a true story. Well, thank you. That just makes me feel all warm and fuzzy to hear that, especially from you, because you guys, he has his own amazing show, which is what I want to end on. Because I, of course, would watch Inside Quest, especially in my interview research. You know, I would go and like look at all the interviews, and yours are always great. And so I'm curious, I realized through listening to your content that that was for employees. There was an employee benefit inside the your business. So why did you decide to take it totally down and relaunch it as Impact Theory instead?
Well, the reason we decided to launch it as Impact Theory was I had originally hoped that Quest could be flexible enough that it could encompass wellness from the body and the mind perspective. And that was always the goal for me. And then we became in many ways a victim of our own success. Like the bars were doing so well and people really saw us as a food company. And it just, to then like ask my partners to take this huge gamble and like continue to funnel resources into the mind as well, it was a little unfair. So you know, we had tremendous success and none of us had to worry about money anymore. So we just got to the point where it was like, I'm going to spin the studio out into a standalone company, address wellness of the mind, complete the circle, do that thing that I really, really am passionate about and feel needs to be done. And so we rebranded it all under Impact Theory. Obviously, the intellectual property of Inside Quest stayed at Quest. The choice to take it down was not my choice. I would have made a different choice, but at the end of the day, it's so hard to be an armchair quarterback. It's like they've got a company to run. They have to know what strategy is right for them. And so I think they were trying to consolidate everything around the body, around nutrition. So from that perspective, I totally get it. And then this is us picking up where that left off.
That was another amazing interview, but here are my top few keys to success for the rest of us from my interview with Tom Bilyeu. Number one, foster, don't find your passion. There's a lot of talk about finding your passion, uncovering it, but he says instead take an interest, gain mastery in that area, and then ask yourself, do you have the drive and the passion to keep going on that particular interest? Just start with your interests. Number two, find something to enjoy failing at. He was passionate about the fact that time is our most precious commodity and success isn't guaranteed, but failure is. So find something that you can enjoy even when you're failing at it. Number three, find a way to keep learning. You guys know if you've watched a lot of my interviews that everyone talks about this. You have to stay learning. His particular method is to listen to audiobooks. Also, I love that he said part of growth is admitting what you don't know. And a lot of us who want to be problem solvers want to have all the answers and to be right. And he said a major shift in his life was when he stopped trying to be right and instead tried to be the one who was finding the answers the fastest. Number four, foster self-awareness. Again, you guys, this is something we talk about over and over again. Find a way to get to know yourself better. There are multiple exercises online. Look it up and become more self-aware. Number five, find the positive. You guys, it's time for some tough love. I spend a lot of time around entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs and those like myself who haven't quite made it yet. We're achieving success, but we're in the trenches and we're hustling. And guys, we are not always the most positive bunch. And he says that you have to realize, okay, something's going on in my brain right now, and that you can choose to start thinking a different way and then start feeling a different way. A lot of my guests have talked about this. Specifically, when you want to change your mindset, swap those thoughts with thoughts of gratitude. Number 6, foster a positive culture. If you currently have a small team, people can see your work ethic, they interact with you one-on-one, but as things grow, you need to make sure that you have people who really get you and who emulate your values and who understand company culture all throughout the organization so that people can still feel and see your culture even if they don't interact with you directly. 7, find a market that's underserved. He totally understands building a successful business and brand in a saturated, competitive market. You have got to have the best product out there. And he says, if you're moving into an area where no one is underserved, then what are you doing? You have to find a place where you can serve better and provide the best product. And lastly, number 8, you've got to foster community. Once you have a product that's serving a market, then you want to build a community around that. And he talked about, just like with my show, it's an incredible time because the gatekeepers are gone. If you want to create a community and start building something, you can right now, today. No more excuses. Nothing is stopping you. Now, I'd love to know, what was your favorite lesson from this interview? Leave a comment, and if you want to learn the juicy behind the scenes details, like what was he like in person, how did I land this interview, see bloopers and more, go to thepursuit.tv/Tom Bilyeu. Do not miss his shows, you guys. They're so great. So everybody go impacttheory.com.
Yep.
Right? And you can also learn about how their whole mission, and you have your whole phase plan, which is very inspiring to me because I'm like, just try and get another interview. Thank you so much for making time.
Thank you for having me
us
on
today. This has been awesome. I'm Kelsey Humphreys here with Tom Bilyeu, and this has been The Pursuit.